In this video, I want to talk to you guys a bit about sound design. As overlooked as it may be, it might just be the most essential part of a good edit. It's really not as boring as it sounds. In fact, when you do it right, it can actually be a really fun, creative process that I really enjoy doing. So in this video, I want to share with you my process of how I go about sound design in my videos. First step is Foley, also known as sound effects. These are sounds that correlate with the things that are happening on screen. So things like footsteps, bushes rustling, branches, thunder cracking, these are all examples of Foley. And it's really important to go deep in this to have a very full sounding video. Even if it's a small sound like somebody taking off their backpack, just by adding that in, it's really just going to add to the immersiveness of that video. I always start by adding in the most obvious sounds, and then I work my way to the less obvious sound to make sure I have all the sounds needed to make my audience feel like they're really there. Once I've added all the Foley, next up is ambient/environmental sound. These are sounds that will occur naturally within the environment that you're shooting in. These might vary quite a bit depending on which scene you're shooting. The scene could be an urban city, a rainstorm, tornado, wind, or even just a standard room tone. Regardless, it's important to add all of these sounds to add to the environment that your character's in. I usually like to add 2 to 3 layers of ambient sound. An example of that might be if I'm shooting a scene where a character is indoors during a rainstorm, I'd use a standard room tone with a rain sound effect with a low pass filter. I will get to filters and audio effects in just a moment. But with that out of the way, let's move on to texture and surreal sound effects. These are sounds that you won't hear naturally. Things like whooshes, risers, or anything that will add to the mood of your video. The first kind of these sounds are atmosphere sounds, and these are probably my favorite. This will basically set the mood for your entire video. It can be light and flowy or drony and dark depending on what mood you're going for. The second type of sound are risers that will build suspense to a particular moment or cut in the video. This is something that will build up over a short period of time to emphasize a cut or a moment in the video. These can actually be really impactful for adding drama into the video when they're done right. Then we've got all the whooshes and transitional elements that will help tie 2 clips together. By the way, if you're new here to this channel, welcome. My name's Wesley Peterson. I'm a 13-year-old filmmaker and photographer, and I post videos all the time about filmmaking and editing. I also post my own work on here as well. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I'd appreciate it if you left a like on this video or even subscribe to my channel. I do my best to post a video at least every week. So with that out of the way, let's talk about some ways we can modify and creatively enhance the sound effects that we have just put onto our edit. And this is step 4 in the process. I'm going to be adding transitions and effects to some of the clips in this sequence. My first and favorite effect is the low pass filter. So basically, what this is a filter that cuts out all of the high frequencies, leaving us with a muffled tone. It's great for scenes that happen underwater, underground, or even if your character puts on headphones. We can use this in many other creative ways too. If a scene takes place inside a big city in a car, then we can add a low pass filter to the city sound effect to muffle it. This is just going to add to the environment that is outside the car. A high pass filter cuts out all the low frequencies and make it sound like it's coming from a walkie-talkie, a radio, or a cell phone. I've only used this a couple times in a short film because I don't really find much use for this one. But it does work perfectly if you want to make it seem like the audio is coming secondhand from the camera. Another effect is slowing down ambiances and Foley sound effects. I use this actually quite often just to make scenes feel larger than life and add more depth into them. I slowed down most of the waterfall sound effects in my short film from the Blue Ridge to make it sound like a huge, large waterfall. You can also speed sound effects up to make them sound smaller, but I never do that because I rarely find any use for that. The next effect that I love to use is audio panning. This is how you can make certain sounds happen on different sides of the headphone or speaker. And when used properly, this can actually sound really cool. So if a car passes from one side to the next, we can keyframe the audio to go to one ear to the next ear. And all you need to do is keyframe the panning to go from one side to the other side, and that's that simple. You can also do this with ambiances. I do this especially with forest sound effects. What I do is I duplicate that sound effect, offset it by a little bit, and then have one of them in one ear and one of them in the other ear. So sometimes you can hear a bird chirping on this side, and then you can hear a different sound happen on this side. And it sounds really cool and very immersive. The final step is organizing all of the tracks that we've put onto the timeline. This is optional, however, I recommend doing it just to make it easier to find clips later, just in case we need to make any further adjustments. The way I do it is just by color coding clips just by what kind of sound they are. So I usually color risers one color, whooshes another color, ambiances one color, and then Foley another color. It might take up a little bit of time, but it definitely will make editing easier, and it will make the timeline easier to look at. Alright, that's it for my 5-step sound design process. Usually I can crank out this entire process in 2 to 3 hours, so it definitely is a time commitment, but it's definitely worth it, and it really adds to the immersiveness of your entire edit. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of beginner filmmakers don't even add sound design, so just by doing it, you're setting yourself apart from other beginner filmmakers. So I hope this 5-step process gave you some insight on how you look at sound design. If it did, please leave a like on this video. share it with your friends, or even subscribe to my channel. I try to upload a new filmmaking video every single week. But that's it for today. Stay safe, stay creative, and I will see you in the next one.